Yeah, welcome on into this edition of Card Show Live. And boy, we have some big ones this week. We already went through the Nashville Card Show of 1,000 tables in Nashville this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So to not take you through that again, but wanted to tell you that we'll be set up there with two tables right next to our friend Mike with Vintage Card Collectibles. So you can get the best of both worlds when you come to that show. The second show on the list is Chantilly, and of course you have to bring that show up. One of the mainstays, which has been for years and years, and I used to attend this show, set up at this show when Marco ran it, and we might be seeing the end of it as we know it, Jeremy, as the building has been purchased, I believe, by an IKEA. So I don't know what the future holds for it. The show will go on somewhere, and as we've
Meatballs.
had
The future holds meatballs.
yeah, right, that's right. It'll be in a different location, but while it's in the town of Chantilly, I think that you can use that name anywhere, and you can call it the Chantilly Show in DC or Baltimore or somewhere. That branded city and show runs together. But anyway, it's a massive show, probably in the 400 to 500 table range. I know they do booths there, um, and an autograph lineup that will rival almost any show, including the National. I saw Rob Gronkowski is going to be there, and I don't know that he has ever been at a public signing before. So, um, if you're anywhere near that, check them out. Dulles Airport, Chantilly, Virginia. It's just a stone's throw away. Great show, and I know that our friend Thomas Fisher will be set up there this weekend. So if you're heading out that way, check that out. Alex Tressler will be there, amongst others. Um, Moving on to Columbia, South Carolina. And our friend James at Sports Wax Promotions has another show, 250 tables. I know that our friend Sasquatch Ryan will be at that show, so make sure if you're in that area. I believe 250 tables, Columbia, South Carolina. If you haven't been down there, I mean, you want to talk about nice weather, that's a show to hit. And then for our small show of the week, Jeremy, I wanted to talk about a show in Phoenix, Arizona. Mike Vecchiola has been running this show. It's probably the longest standing, probably not even probably, it definitely is the longest running show in the Valley, probably since the 80s. Jay Mankey, a friend of the show, will be set up there. It's been in several different hotels and moved around. I think now it's at a senior living center, but it's probably in the 40 to 50 table range. But I'm going to tell you, there's some powerful stuff there. Um, and Phoenix is a destination city, so you're always going to get people that are in town that hit these shows. So make sure you check that out. The Northwest Valley Coin and Card Show there. Mike Vecchiola, terrific guy, and he does a lot of coins too. So if you go to that show, you might see some gold and silver coins, and definitely hit up Jay Mankey. Check out his vintage, and he'll have a lot of the '90s insert stuff that we like. So that takes you kind of around the country, and you can go from the West Coast to the East Coast. There is no shortage of tables. I think we just ran through three shows that probably have close to 2,000 tables. Um, so
Yeah, you've got shows across the country and all the way out west, where we're going to talk to our featured guest tonight, Dan Bliss with Front Row Card Show. He's got a number of shows coming up, and Dan is the producer and founder of Front Row Card Show. It's one of the fastest growing collectible events in the Western U.S. with over 30 successful shows under his belt. Dan has venues from Las Vegas to Pasadena, Portland, Phoenix. He's got Seattle and Tacoma coming up October 25th through 26th that we'll get into. Lifelong collector who began hosting shows to pay his way through college, allegedly. We'll find that out for sure. Dan now brings together thousands of enthusiasts across generations, curating experiences that blend nostalgia, commerce, and communities. So very excited to talk to a guy doing big things out west. We will welcome in Dan Bliss.
Hey guys,
Dan, how are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Good. We appreciate you joining us on the heels of a big show that you have coming up in Tacoma. 400 tables, I see, right?
Yeah, we've been growing in every market we're in, really, but our Tacoma show is really strong, really strong.
Dan, I mentioned you've got shows in Seattle, Las Vegas, Pasadena, Portland, Phoenix, San Diego. Is there a difference? Are you finding in these different regions or markets, are there things that are different within each market, or is the collectible industry as a whole just a madhouse right now?
The industry is really strong right now. I mean, everyone knows this, you know. There are certain differences in different markets. I mean, I can certainly sense um, some markets really have pent up demand. So when we come to a market where there's maybe fewer shows, our show takes off and it explodes really quickly. So I mean, the market's really strong everywhere. So it's there's not a whole lot of differences between the market other than whether or not there's other shows going on in the market and such. Most of the markets we're in, there's not a tremendous amount of competition for big shows. Most of our shows are 400 to 600 tables, and we'll host shows 2 to 4 times a year in each market. So for the size of the shows that we organize, we see strong demand in every market.
So let's go back to where here a little bit where you started. You said that you did cards, put yourself through college, and I know that you're from Cleveland or from the Cleveland area. So take us back to the beginning. How did you get started in this business? Where were you, and how did you get from Cleveland to the West Coast?
I was buying and selling cards back when I was in high school, and then I went to college, and I was already a dealer at shows back then. And my sophomore year of college, I was at Ohio State, and a buddy and I decided on a whim to organize our own show at Ohio State. We organized it at the Union Building, and we did a few shows there, and we ended up doing a few other shows in Columbus, and I personally started organizing shows also in Cleveland. I did one in Pittsburgh, and that paid my way through college. But it wasn't just the shows. I don't make a lot of money off the shows, especially back then. They were just small shows. But, the buying and selling of cards, I would travel. Like I would drive to Chicago. I would drive to New York, if I wasn't doing a show in Cleveland or Columbus.
Dan, we might have to talk offline. I have a feeling we were at The Ohio State University right around the same time and may have crossed paths there as well. But I did notice within your shows, cards, comics, collectibles, we've seen a lot of that out here in the Midwest as well, where maybe as early as 3 years ago, 5 years ago, there wasn't a lot of crossover. These were kind of compartmentalized. Certainly Pokemon and TCG were separate from sports cards. Can you talk a little bit about that evolution where there's these lines are continually blurred and blended to where now these shows are just massive experiences for any kind of collector?
Well, I had experience with that even in the early 90s. In fact, I organized a couple of shows that were cards and comics. I remember the first one I did like that was in Akron. I organized a show down there that had cards and comics, and it went well. So when I got back into the hobby a number of years ago and started Front Row, I felt that it would be good to allow comics as well. Comics, frankly, are just a small part of our show. I mean, we're called Front Row Card Show, so it's not a big element. However, as you know, there's a lot of non-sports in shows, certainly Pokemon, but Marvel cards, Lorcana is very popular. And even old movie cards, and Star Wars and things like that. So there's a lot of crossover in that regard, and there's a big segue between sports cards, pop culture, and movies, as well as comics, and then TCG. So, I feel like there's a nice transition between, pop culture to sports that all are interrelated. And certainly there's a lot of vendors that get into all of that sort of thing. And at our shows, we have a lot of vendors that are into sports as well as TCG, as well as non-sports. And some even, have comics mixed into there. They do a little bit of everything. And obviously there's a lot of vendors and dealers who, are exclusive to one thing.
We've been embracing the Pokemon and the TCG world. We've started one of our shows. We call it the TC Greeny Pokemon Only. But it was interesting when I made this post last night that you're going to be on the show. One of our Pokemon vendors sent me a text and said, "Do you know how I get in to the Front Row show? That is like the holy grail of Pokemon shows."
Well, it's the case with sports too. I mean, we have long waiting lists for every show, so it is tough, and I don't know what to say other than to tell people to add their names to our wait lists. And because we have long wait lists, typically the best way in is to make yourself available if we get a cancellation at last minute, because that's typically the best way for vendors to get into our shows, just because our wait lists are long.
It's a good problem to have, I suppose. And people will look at that and say, oh yeah, shows are sold out. It's all great. But the reality is most people don't realize how much work and blood and sweat and tears actually go into cultivating these shows. And there are a lot of stakeholders, Dan. I'm certainly preaching to the choir. You're balancing sponsors and vendors and venues in multiple cities. What is your approach to not necessarily managing all those stakeholders, but serving them in the best way possible and putting out the best presentation ultimately for the consumers that are a big part of that stakeholder group?
Well, I'm a collector and a dealer myself, so I know what I would want to see at a show. So if I'm attending a show, there's certain things I look for, and I'm certainly looking for a good mix of different things at a show. I'm looking for really strong vendors who have really good quality stuff. But you're looking for things you don't always see every day. If all the vendors are the same, that makes the show a little bit boring. So we try to go for a good mix of different things at the show. And the other thing is that I'm a dealer at every one of our shows. I sell vintage sports cards at every show. It's what I do, and that's actually the origin of how Front Row came to be. So my interests are aligned with all the other dealers at the show. So as a result, we work hard to put on a good show, and I have an interest as a dealer at the show to make sure it's a good one.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's kind of part of our philosophy, right? I mean, we set up at the shows. Jeremy kind of walks around and does the production of the show, but yeah, we're there as vendors and as show producers. So it takes a lot. So do you then also have a chance to get to walk around and kind of, not just buy and sell, but kind of just admire the show?
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I'm fortunate that my wife and I started the business, and the deal was when we started it that I get to be a dealer at the show, and she didn't know what she was signing on for when she agreed to that. But as a result, she does a lot of the problem solving and dealing with situations and taking care of customers and things like that oftentimes as an organizer, that's something that would normally be on my shoulders. But she really takes it off my shoulders during the show. And we also, we have a really solid team. So to answer your question about getting around, sometimes it's tough. Sometimes it's tough for me to walk around the show because if we're busy, I don't often have time to walk around the show and schmooze or to shop myself, So I try to escape every now and then. I get someone to watch my table for a little bit. And sneak out and walk around a bit and say hi to people. Usually I get my best chance to say hi to people, before and after the show. And then sometimes I'm like one of the last to pack up because I'm busy chatting with people.
It does take a village for sure to pull these off. It takes good teammates, partners, those stakeholders. You've been doing this a long time, Dan, you and your group. Are there some favorite stories that come to mind about some of the people that have been with you a long time, the dealers or vendors that maybe started out, and you can think back how scared or intimidated they might have been that first time, but they've really grown with you and grown as a part of your community. Is there anything that resonates along those lines?
We've got a good number of dealers who've been with us since the beginning. Our first show was only 65 tables. So we've had a good number of people that like that. And it's funny. So you're right. Some of them are nervous the first time they're set up, and which I can't relate to because I started doing it when I was a teenager. So so it's so funny when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm a little nervous my first show." So we've had a good number of people. We've had people who started at our show and they now physically own a shop, and so we're real proud of that they've graduated up to owning their own card shop, whereas they started just selling at a show. And I think that's one of the best things about it is, and we organize so many shows now that we literally have, vendors with us who make a living doing our shows, and they will literally travel the country with our shows. So, when we're doing 2 shows a month and they're all over the country, there's people literally, that's their job. They literally buy cards, sort cards, organize their inventory during the week, and then they come out to our shows on the weekends.
Yeah, looking at that calendar, put that back up, Haley, if you can, please. So you go from Seattle to Vegas, Pasadena, Portland, Phoenix, San Diego. When is there time to relax and then kind of enjoy this? Or is there not, is that part of it, right? You get to travel and see these different cities, right?
We try, we work really hard, and we've got a team that does this, but it's nonstop. We've had a couple occasions where we have, 4 shows in 5 weeks, and when we have a stretch like that, it's there's not a lot of free time, frankly, because we come back from one show and we already better be halfway packed for the next one.
How does the 2026 calendar look for you already?
It's filling up. And in fact, one of our challenges is going to be in January. It's going to be the first time we're going to have 2 shows the same weekend. So our January 17th and 18th show in San Diego, we've also got a show that same weekend in Tacoma. So we have one in the Pacific Northwest and one in the Southwest. And some of our vendors have to decide which one they're going to go to because they can't do both. And then we have a number that have already told us they're going to do both. They're going to find a way. They want to do both. And okay, if you can find a way, if you have team members or employees that can divide, and you have no inventory. You got to have inventory to be able to divide among two events.
As a show producer, that is kind of a challenge, and one that we have too. It's finding the dates that match up with the venues in whichever city. And well, we're in 2 different states, but we're in 4 and 5 locations, here in Ohio, and it's trying to match up the venues. So yeah, how do you guys kind of look at that? You're having 2 shows on the same weekend. How do you go through that calendar and kind of figure out where do we need to go, and do you have to sacrifice a show sometimes?
Well, all of our shows are pretty big, so it limits us in terms of venues and availability and things like that. We don't want to bounce around between venues either. So oftentimes we're at the mercy of the venues in terms of what dates they have available. And we don't have many alternatives depending on the city. So, sometimes we have to, make hard decisions. And you're right. There's times where we have to say, okay, well, we may not be able to do a show in that city. We try to space our shows out. We can't do monthly shows. We won't do a show even within 60 days. Because a big show, you just can't have them too frequently. It just is, our shows have to be a special event in each market, and people have to really look forward to them, because we have a lot of attendees that travel to our shows. Big buyers travel to our shows, the grading companies, and then of course the dealers who travel. It's like we can't do shows every 2 months in different cities. So for us, it's really about spacing them in a way, and then making each one a special event, making sure it's big, making sure it's packed, big crowds, and unique vendors and grading companies at every show. So those are the things we really work hard to achieve.
Dan, I saw a stat today from GenRate that non-sports single sales last month in September on eBay totaled $92 million. That's a 4% increase over August. By 2030, I believe some of the projections have the collectibles industry at well over 420 billion. Those numbers are all good and well. Is there any trepidation or concern or nerves that, where is the end of this? Like the growth has been unbelievable. Shows are continuing to grow and grow. Is this a case of everybody's getting it while the getting's good, or is this sustainable over long term?
Well, that's a good question. Nobody knows. We can all speculate. I really like the Fanatics attitude, the Topps attitude of 10xing the market, and that relates to sports cards. And it's certainly an ambitious goal, and certainly something that, perhaps it could be achievable, So we don't know if we're, on the beginning of a big upswing, or there's some people who think it's a bubble right now because the market's so strong. So it's really hard to predict where it's heading. I think that there's always going to be trends, things coming and going in interest level. The nice thing about the hobby and the nice thing about shows is, if admission prices are low, or in some cases free, and you do a good job organizing an event, I mean, this is really just a form of entertainment. And if this is a leisure activity for most people, collecting. Now, there's certainly a lot of people making a living off of it. There's a lot of people buying and selling cards. Either they're a flipper, they're like an entrepreneurial teenager or 20-something who's buying and selling cards and maybe speculating on who the next big player is. There's a lot of that. And so, but at the heart of it, it still comes down to, this is a hobby for most people, and it's discretionary spending, it's leisure. And as long as you provide an affordable, fun experience for attendees, the trends can come and go, but it's still going to be a choice for entertainment. And whether that be, different types of collectibles, whether that be TCG, whether that be sports, whether it's all of it, I think we're gonna, we'll just go with organizing really good shows, and that's really all we can do. We can't, it doesn't matter what we speculate, a year or 2, 5, 10 years from now. All we can do is run great shows, and that's really what matters.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. That's a great thought, and really, that's right. The next show is you're hoping to make it the best show, because you don't know what it's going to be like after that. So, and speaking of which, so you have one in Tacoma, the 25th and 26th. What can people expect to see there? How many tables? Where is the show at?
Which is a great venue. It's really a a cool venue. In fact, it's on a hill. It's almost like San Francisco is such a steep hill, and the convention space is on the 5th floor. And what's cool about it is you've got this amazing view of Mount Rainier out the window. It's absolutely stunning, especially in the morning. So, all I can say is it's going to be packed. Our ticket sales are super strong. Beckett, CGC will both be there. JSA will be there for autographs. It's going to be a really big show. Then after that, a couple weeks, we're in Las Vegas, and that's our biggest show. It's 600 tables in Las Vegas on November 8th and 9th, and that's just going to be a massive show. It's a really strong show, and Roth Cards bought a Kobe card at our last show for $110,000. Cards HQ was at our show, and they bought a 52 top set for $300,000. So it's really cool when big deals like that happen. And I know that Golden was there, and they made some really good pickups. So we get pretty big names in the hobby come to our shows, and it's fun when exciting things like that happen.
Absolutely. Well, Dan, we can't thank you enough for joining us this evening. We wish you the best of luck. We know how much hard work it goes into pulling these things off, and you're right there at the top. And we wish you continued success.
Great. Thank you both. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Dan. We'll catch up again soon.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.